Hello, welcome to the animation panel that consists of just me. It's more of a workshop. I'm CaptainHoers, as advertised. There's a Kenny. Who the hell am I? So here's some things that you might have heard of that I've done. I did Spitfire's Day Off in 2015. That's the one to the tune of Come On Eileen by Say Ferris. I did the Buck 2016 animation, another music video, basically. There's also the cyberpunk thing that I did in 2017 that has nothing to do with anything, but it was really fun. And I also did the animation for this year's GalaCon, which, if you were at the opening ceremony, you would have saw, or it was also on the internet, that thing that exists. So I also, I'm an animator for my day job. I was working at Cartoon Saloon in Ireland last year. That's the show that I worked on. It's a children's show for Amazon. I'm currently working at Cartoon Saloon's sister studio, Lighthouse, on a show that I can't tell you what it is because of non-disclosure agreements. It is not G5. That's a different studio. I don't work on the Pony Show. I'm not even sure they'd let me. Also, I'm not going to talk too much about studio animation because there is a non-zero chance that I'm not the only animator in the room, and I'm possibly not even the best animator in the room. So I'm just going to talk from what I know. This is also not going to be a specific program tutorial. I know a lot about working with Flash. I know a bit about working with Moho and Animate Studio. I hate that I know enough to work with Toon Boom because I kind of hate Toon Boom. But what I'm going to talk about is more general stuff that you can apply to whatever software you want to use, because a lot of the thing that I'm going to be talking about is how you can get involved and just do stuff. That was the illustration that was supposed to go. That's what was supposed to go over what I was just talking about, which is how I go from that to that. So, chapter. This is a. I just found out that the quarter life halfway to destruction is like 7 years. Oh wait, no, it's 11 years old now. So, start with an idea. I'm not gonna. You know what an idea is. I'm not gonna tell you how to make ideas. The only tip I have for it is be bored. Like at work, I have way more ideas than I have any idea what to do with. Like, no joke, if you want to have ideas, take your phone and throw it out the window. Like, just deprive yourself of the internet. You will fill that time in no time. Planning, honestly, like I do quite a bit of planning, but if you're just starting your first project, there's like the kind of planning that I do. It's incredibly boring spreadsheet stuff that is mostly based on trying to get the thing done on time, which I need to do for things like convention animations. Or when I was just starting out, I had to fit like all of the work I did on an animation into like my week off from college. So I had to work to schedules. I would suggest that for your first projects, you don't plan. It is very easy to just get completely bogged down in planning. Just get your hands dirty. You will learn way more. This is some of the planning that went into the GalaCon animation. This is the storyboard. I did not do the storyboard. Was it Patch that did the storyboard? Yeah, round of applause for Patch, who did the storyboard. Yay! That was a slightly hesitant round of applause, but yeah, we're all like just overheated. It's fine. I don't really do like traditional storyboards myself. I just draw straight onto the canvas that I'm going to animate on. So this is some of the like the sketch panels from Sunlight. As you can see, they're quite rough, but they still like match the thing that eventually it is. Next step is just animation. So the first step of animation looks something like this. This is from Spitfire's Day Off. You can see it's still like missing like a lot of elements, like the the truck in particular is there's just one frame. That's because I'm going to tween that truck, which is I'm going to cheat and just use. It's just going to slide. And there's also like I spend a lot of time on the swoopy archy thing, and then once she's leaving the frame, I just stop drawing because again I'm gonna like use a smear to take her out, which is I don't need to do a lot of planning for that. It's just about flow. So that turns into this. This is what it looks. Oh my god, that's that frame rate. Yeah, this is what I get for doing the presentation in Flash itself. It is trying to render that in real time, as opposed to just playing a video. It's really going to bite me when it goes to the sunlight stuff, which has a whole load of glow effects. So this is just a really simple thing from the GalaCon animation. A lot of the time, the animation step will be like a really simple thing like this. Like there's no bobbing, it's just the leg movement. And then I will do the rest of the work just to make this nice, bouncy, springy little walk animation using like, I'll talk more about cheating later, because cheating, you have to cheat. There is no option not to in animation. But like if you look closely at like the tail and the head, and I was looking too closely at the head and tail because I tripped on the thing. Wobbly thing. But like if you look closely at it, it's the drawings aren't all that different because I'm just stretching and skewing it. This is like the bread and butter of TV animation because when you're animating for TV, you have no time and also no balance. So that kind of base animation is like the first big time sink. The second big time sink is doing all the final artwork on top. So that's, yeah, I mean, yeah, there it is. So the only thing I have to say about this is that for this, you will want to find a style of like making your stuff that makes it easy on yourself. The thing I do is I do these like lines with like the pen tool and the line tool in Flash, and then I fill them in, and then it looks kind of weird until I get to the last thing where it just kind of it's yeah. I remember seeing people's reaction to this in real time because I streamed making this drawing, and it was just like, whoa, the lines going away just made that suddenly look a whole lot better. I mean, that's just what I do, but you know, for other kinds of animation, the counterexample I have for this, which I don't have a slide of, is has anyone heard of the movie The Thief and the Cobbler? There's a couple of years. Some very casual animation fans in here. So there's this guy called Richard Williams. He's most known for Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and also the book called The Animator's Survival Guide, which is the Bible for animators. He also he worked on this film called The Thief and the Cobbler. He started work on it in like the 70s. And it only came out in like 1994. It was hell to make. Obviously, the production stopped and started loads of times because you don't keep a project like that continuously funded for 26 years. But it had this exquisitely detailed animation. You can look up clips of it online. You know, like hundreds of piano keys, like really articulated fingers, teeth, so many teeth. But basically it kind of flopped on its release because, well, I mean, yeah. And what the sting in this story is that, you know, was it Jeffrey Katzenberg, head of Disney Studios Animation, just kind of got a wind of this when it was about to come out. I think they got funding from like Warner or something, and they were like, "Hey, that's a cool idea. Let's steal it and make Aladdin and make like loads more money." So like this is the idea that was stolen to make Aladdin, and it was just killed by making the art too detailed. So that is what like having a style that works against your workflow will do. So that was a lot more about that than I expected to say. But, yeah. So cheating. You know, back to working fast. So I'm sure quite a few people know about the way that Scooby-Doo and a lot of other Hanna-Barbera animations, they just have this like repeating background thing, because like I said, in TV animation you have no time, so they need to get it done quickly. Now, when you're working in digital animation, there are loads of ways you can fit this in. And I've picked out 2 examples here of even things where, these are some of my better looking shots. You've got this like swooping, loads of arcs. But like if you look closely, I can go frame by frame here. Like she flies in here, and by this frame, her body has stopped moving. So look at her front legs and her back legs and her head. That's the front legs are just on a rotating tween, and the rest of her is completely still, apart from like the wings and the hair. And she's just like moving in an arc through the air. That's the kind of thing that saves you. Like if I had to draw those frames, that's like a good 6 frames. That's that doubles the amount of time I'm working on that shot. This is the kind of thing that you need to do to survive in animation. And then there's the flowing out, which is just, it's more tweens. I thought it was a smear, but it wasn't. Or another one from Sunlight. This is like, there's, again, she's like stopped doing new drawings. There's just tweens in the tail. Then we have a smear, which I'll get back to smears. Then, more tweens. She's just rotating. There's like 3 or 4 different tweens, and they all tag team off each other, and that just saves you so much time. Backgrounds, thought I'd take a minute to talk about backgrounds, because a lot of people find backgrounds intimidating. They just draw characters, and they have no idea how to do a background. This is from the GalaCon animation. So it looks like there's a lot going on here, but it's mostly just like squares and a few like photo references, and there's a spaceship in the background because I guess you have spaceships in Germany, don't you? Like honestly, like I'm not even joking by bringing up Bob Ross. Like that's basically how I learned to do backgrounds in a way that wasn't scary. If you like look closely at what Bob Ross is doing when he's painting, he's using, he's basically just roughing out shapes extremely quickly. Like he does a tree in like 20 seconds by just dabbing the brush like real quickly from side to side. And like I mean, you can't really take literal lessons from Bob Ross because obviously he's using very different tools, but you can use that approach of just using the shapes that your tools naturally make and what kind of things they lend themselves to. And what my tools lend themselves to is sharp, boxy lines, which it turns out is very good for doing things like cityscapes. That background on that card that I've been like throwing around the place, that background did not take very long at all. There's like 2 techniques going on there. There's doing like a very interesting, jagged line, and lots of depth, just like lots of layers. And mountains. You're drawing mountains like instant background. So backgrounds really aren't that scary. You just need to, figure out what's a way of like making them naturally flow out. And here's just another background. Interior backgrounds are there's another like step to it, which is that perspective lines. Like I said, I'm not going to sit down and do a drawing lesson because, oh god, I don't have time. People study this for years. But like that's like one additional technique, and then it's just more of, well, there's just like a happy little beer stain there. What are we going to fill our world with? Let's have a drunk. Let's have a drunk. So compositing, I'm going to whistle past compositing here because it's not something I've been doing for very long. Compositing is just what you do when you've finished your animating and you need to like stick a bunch of things together. This is very important in like TV animation. I didn't do this at all until like 2018. But it's what you'd use to bring stuff from like different software together. So the most of this is Flash, but the equalizer at the back and that kind of ghosting effect are both from After Effects. And I had to like go back and forth between the two. the ghosting is Premiere, the thing on the back is After Effects. I had to go back and forth between the 3 programs a couple of times trying to get this to work, because if you'll notice, the equalizer is behind the characters, and exporting from Flash is a pain. So I had to do some backwards things there. Okay, so if I can get the lights on. Okay. Am I gonna have to turn the lights on, or who's got the lights? Okay, sorry. So I've just whistled through my process and some very general steps, like very quickly. So let's slow down a bit. Does anyone have any burning questions right now? Because we're about to move on to some other stuff, and I'd just like get to things while they're fresh in your mind. Oh, we got one. Yep. Oh, hang on. We're going to get a microphone to you.
Hello.
Hello.
How long did it take you to make the Spitfire scene, like where she flies?
That one in particular, I don't have a very good idea of how long it takes me to do individual scenes, because the way I do it is like I do all of the sketch and then all of the artwork and then all of the background. So I do it in like multiple passes. Mm-hmm. Also, when I was doing those kinds of animations, I sat down and did Spitfire's Day in 35 days, which I do not remember. Because it was just like a blur of working 10 hours a day.
No, okay.
So I don't actually know.
Okay.
Sorry. We got one.
We both know that working with Flash and working with After Effects is they need good hardware. And did you have, for example, when you started, did you have not too strong hardware, and did it take you did it hinder you in some animations, like you could not do because you were burdened because of the hardware, like restrained, and you could not make some of your ideas?
That's interesting, because I keep tripping on this thing. So there's a lot of animators and like people who work in these fields who will they will not settle for anything short of a beast of a machine. The hardware that I started with was like a middle of the road, like lower middle end laptop from 2011. That's when I started animating. And like even my current computer is like an off the shelf, like it's £1,000. It's not like and that's from 2015 as well. And I haven't upgraded it yet. I'm actually only now hitting like RAM problems. As for whether it's like made it difficult for me to do stuff, that's where like finding creative solutions comes in. I wouldn't say it stops me from executing on my ideas. I'd say it more forces me to find another way to do them that isn't going to make me sit there waiting 18 hours for a render or something like that. Though 18 hours for a render is very common in some other things. Like this effect here. This is a very. It was more of a problem before I figured out a thing called swivel, which is even now antiquated. Back in 2011, 2012, the way I published my animations was I uploaded a Flash file, like this one, to DeviantArt, and then posted it to Tumblr using a weird script hack, which meant that the maximum resolution was 435 pixels across. Oh wait, no, it was 400 down, and it was small. It was there'll be an example of how small it is at the end of the presentation, and it was also rendering Flash in real time, which meant glowy effects like that were almost completely off the table because they had to run on the person viewing its hardware, which meant that it just chugged. So I had to do things without resorting to that. These days, it's less limited. That was a bit of a rambling answer. I hope that went somewhere. Yeah, basically hardware, not that much of a problem. It just means using some creativity. Unless there are any... Oh, we got a question around the back, and then we'll do that last one for now, and then we will move on to the rest of the presentation. Hello.
Hello, I have a question. When you're working with Flash, have you draw every position of the pony which you want to animate as a single, or can you use a shortcut as if you draw this like a vector graphic and then manipulate every point of the vector in a frame span? Can you use such a shortcut, or is that a more frame by frame style?
It's a bit of both. There's like a few different things that you can use. There is bone animation in Flash. I have never used it. I should probably figure it out at some point. I've used bones in other software. For like point by point like vector animation, there is a thing in Flash called shape tweening. Shape tweening has a mind of its own. It produces some very weird shapes. It's sometimes fine. Like I think there's some shape tweening on Hey! I think there's some shape tweening on that like tail and mane there, but to go a bit Batman on you, shape tweening only works if you force it to. So the tools are there in Flash, but Flash is temperamental. So I think we'll do more questions at the end. For now, we are on to a small practical exercise. I will need a volunteer or two. Oh, I saw two hands. There was one there, and down the back. Yes. I mean, we've got enough room to do get a couple more people. Yeah, sure, you as well. Yeah. Okay, so, hello. So, who am I talking to? There's
Alex. Yeah, M3.
M3 and...
And Max. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, okay, so we got Alex, M3, and Max. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to turn the camera on you. So I want to put you over there since I don't want to catch unsuspecting members of the audience in it. So what we're going to do is demonstrate some of the principles of animation using stop motion techniques on real people. This is a technique called pixelation, not P-I-X-I, not P-I-X-E. But it'll show you that some of the principles of animation remain the same regardless of what medium you're using, even if that medium is people. So let me get the thing. Ooh. So I had a tripod. Okay, so we're going to have them do a fairly simple action. Does anyone have just like a 2-3 not even 2-3 seconds, like a 1 second animation basically. So does anyone have any ideas what they should do?
Punch him in the face.
Okay, I unfortunately cannot condone violence in this presentation. A Bazam. Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure what a Bazam looks like. Thanks for coming. There's seats here. Okay. So what does a Bazam look like again? A Bazam. I wasn't at the opening ceremony because I was at Towers last night. Yeah. That was kind of rough. So yeah, we'll do a Bazam. I'll tilt the. Okay, it is actually as high as it will go. Okay, so we'll have like a resting pose. Now you guys are going to need to hold the poses for like a decent amount of time. So just to forewarn you. So. The first thing you do in animation is you have your extreme keys. So this is like usually the like a rest thing and like the furthest point of a motion, and everything else is getting from one to the other smoothly. So let's get our extreme keys. So first, it's just going to be like the bottom of the motion, whatever you want to like start it as. Yeah. Okay. So okay. So ready, Okay. Now, remember where you had those hands. That's going to be important. So now we do the top of the motion. So the maximum bazam. Okay. So we've got our extreme keys. So the next thing you're going to want to do is the breakdown. So I've neglected to put an illustration of what a breakdown is in the slide. It would have been really useful, but I mean, for the sake of your oh my God. Okay, yeah, put your hands down. We picked an unfortunate motion. So the breakdown is basically the halfway point, and it's not exactly like, you know, if you do things in digital animation, sometimes you'll end up with like a weird, like crooked halfway point. Like say I've got like my hand here, and I want to get my hand over here. You know, common sense kind of dictates a circular motion. This is also quite unfortunate. But if you just tell a computer to do it, it'll like try and like twist my hand through my body, and it'll be all strange. So you need to like define the middle of the motion. So a midpoint for like the bizam would be kind of like somewhere around here. Yeah. Okay. And then at that point, what you end up needing to do is the in-betweens between them. So let's say we have two in-betweens. It's going to be a fairly choppy animation. And what you do in most animation is you need to like favor the ends of it. So this is where I said, remember where you kept those hands at the start, because you're going to want to move them just a little bit above where they were. Okay. Oh yeah, you started with yours down. Okay. Whoop. And then the final one would be just a little bit short of the end. So, like your last thing. So you go to maximum bazam and then bring it back a bit. Now, okay, you can put your hands down now. The standing up part of this is done. You can go back to your seats. Thank you very much. So there's one concept I wasn't able to illustrate using the bazam motion, just because it's like and that's overshoots, which is we had a dab at one of the the dabber is in the audience, but what you can do with a dab is it's like you go to the extreme of it and then carry on a little bit and then settle back. And that does a lot for like making it feel alive. There's a whole load of techniques for just making animation seem smoother and like more lifelike, even though it's not like how things are physically actually moving, or you're just exaggerating what's happening that you don't normally perceive, but you feel. I mean, that's another thing I say about animation a lot. You feel it as much as you see it. So at some point, I'm going to make that into like a little GIF, and you can watch it, or maybe not. It depends on how unfortunate it ends up looking. We can have the lights off now, because now we're getting back to me talking. Okay. But if you want more concrete and less rambly tips about how to make animations look more lifelike, look up the 12 principles of animation. I've previously focused the talk on the 12 principles, and it's been just me rambling through extremely technical stuff very quickly and leaving everyone very confused. So I did something else. So also, smears, a thing you can't do with pixelation. So this is just a fun little aside. So this is things I do when I need to get a character from one side of the screen to the other, and I've only got like one frame to do it. So it typically involves, you know, characters turning to jelly, completely solid tablets just kind of, and also like, you know, Britannia becoming Sleipnir. And there's like a Cyclops up there, and God knows what's happened to Canny.
And using the famous speedy
Oh, I can't think of the exact one. I do know in TV animation they're a bit less common just because you have a bit less freedom with the puppets that you have to use. But in films, like I'm sure you've seen, like Disney smears where like that one is using a very similar technique to a famous one of LeFou from Beauty and the Beast, who is just like doing this with like he's got like a duck in his hand or something. Duck noise. And he has like 6 hands for a frame. It's great. Did New World? If you like search that, you get some great results. So, step 3, which is how to get started with animation in like less technical terms and more just like. I'm quite proud of this. Have the right reasons to start animating. Animating is not going to make you rich and famous. If you want to get very wealthy very quickly, my God, become a hack political pundit. Animation is not going to do that job for you. I as a professional animator, my salary, I would make more if I was driving a bus. Animation is not something you do for the wealth. It is a lot of work. Like, I'm extremely tired, not least because in the run-up to the convention, on top of my 9-hour job, I'd go home and then spend all of the time until bed, like, just drawing stuff. I'm sure any artists in the room will have at least some, they'll know what I'm talking about. Start small. Like, don't start with your magnum opus. Again, at the end of this presentation, there's going to be an example of like a small project. Because if you start big, then you're going to end up discouraging yourself, and it's just not a good time. So what you get from starting small is you get the feeling of finishing something, and that feeling is kind of addictive. And it's basically the only thing that's going to power you onto larger projects is just needing that fix of finishing things. This sounds cheesy, but again, this is about like powering through the work. Is like animation, like it's a lot of work, and sometimes it's quite tedious. My God, do not make this more difficult for yourself by doing things you don't want to do. Like, draw what makes you happy, because you're going to need it, basically. Also, Bab. And just get into it. Like, there is no substitute for hands-on experience. You can plan and plan and plan forever, and that will not get you any. That will not get you any closer. We're getting into like very general advice here. So I've added to this point some tools you can use to get started. So Autodesk Sketchbook. I'm tired. Autodesk Sketchbook is free. It's the kind of free drawing tool that I wish I had when I started. Instead, I was using a copy of Photoshop CS4 for a while. I did buy the CS6 suite in 2012, don't worry. Or is it 2013? Yeah. So Autodesk Sketchbook it's mostly a painting app. It's available for Windows, Mac, Android, and iOS. The Windows and Mac versions also have like a flipbook feature, which is good for teaching you for working out the principles of, or not principles of, but for like starting animation. It's it's very clean, very stripped down interface. I'm going to be drawing in this, once I'm finished here, as we do Q&A. There are a couple of other free tools that are pretty good. Krita it's a bit weird as painting programs go. Also, both of these are significantly more complicated. Particularly OpenToons can feel like looking at the control panel of a nuclear reactor. I mean, at least you don't have the irradiation of Eastern Europe on your hands. Krita it's kind of like Clip Studio Paint, which is also a painting and animation app. It's just free. And OpenToonz, apparently they used it on Futurama, but I've never figured out how to get it to work. But it's an option, and there are resources out there for learning these things. 3D, like honest to God, Source Filmmaker, just like it's free, and there's loads of like rigs for it already. If you just for getting down and like getting your hands dirty, just jump right in. I don't exactly have that much experience with it. I'm a 2D animator, but again, there's loads of stuff out there. Blender is also a thing that exists. I'm sure. I mean, why am I even talking about this? There's other people who know more about 3D stuff at this convention. And final thing, honestly, don't give up. So remember what I said earlier about when I started animating on Tumblr, I had to make things tiny? This is how tiny. Like, this is how much I did not know technically about animation to start with. So first of all, it's tiny. Second, it's also at a weird frame rate. Most animation is done at 24 frames per second, or, well, it's strictly speaking 12, but it's that kind of multiple. This is at 16 for no reason. So it is very slightly faster than it should be because this presentation is playing at 24 frames per second, and we're getting into weird technical Flash stuff, which I like talking about, but nobody understands. So also, this is basically the first animation that I ever did. Like, not counting a few weird things in secondary school where I was just messing around with the software. This is like the first actual honest-to-God, frame-by-frame animation that I did. It looks rubbish. Let's get a closer look. Like, look at that back. That's what is that doing? Like, it's just like this, yeah. This hoof is completely still. The motion itself is kind of robotic. This Pinky's doing something.
Huh? Could be very close.
Who knows? Whoever it is, they're clearly having a fun time. So the thing about this animation is 2 years later, I remade it. And like, it's not perfect, but you can clearly see I've made progress in that time. Yeah, also I started doing funny stuff in the background. Because I can't help myself. There's still stuff wrong with it. Like the hoof is doing it's jittering around the place. The volumes aren't quite right. It's very, very wiry, and the hair just kind of the hair flow is okay. But I've made progress. And then 2 years later, I did it again. I think the funny stuff is like it comes later. But like the volumes are better, the motion's a bit snappier, progress is... but like I'm still making advances. Yeah. Also there's Saurian. And then 2 years later, with even more progress. Wait for it. Yeah, it's not as wacky as the previous one. But there's still, like I said, there's still stuff wrong with it. There's like, what's this doing? And then there's this sleeve is just kind of inverting back and forth. And then 2 years later, which is about 2 weeks ago, this is where I am now. Also play Red Faction Guerrilla, it's great. So my point, well, I'll let this happen. There's a frame missing. Oh, okay. But my point with all this is that when you start, there's going to be a lot of flaws, but you need time to work through with them. So you just need to stick to it, and you will improve. And you too can have a video game protagonist with an ostrich hammer walking past your window with like star glasses. Okay, so that's all I've got to say. Yeah. I ended on a very weird note. So the rest of this, until they kick me out, is basically going to be Q&A and me drawing. So I suppose we can keep the lights off because I'm still using the projector. I'm going to sit down and use this for a change. Get into radio DJ mode. And yeah, we can use the two things for Q&A. So while I get set up, would anyone have any questions? Ooh, you don't want to record the drawing? Close it. Oh, it's just press X. Okay. Ooh.
So, hi.
Hello.
In your longer animations, here.
Hello.
In your longer animations, you don't have lines around shapes, so it's quite a distinct style, I think. Is that just a choice of style, or is it? Do you find easier to do it that way?
It's a little bit of both. It's the as there's sort of like my style evolving to what I can naturally draw quickly, and also the style itself was originally designed to be something that I could make quickly. The fact that it ended up looking quite unique is basically a happy little accident.
Great. Thanks a lot for the interesting panel.
Okay. No worries. This computer is running very hot. Like me. I'm dying. Help.
So I wanted to ask, what was maybe your biggest revelation in terms of technical things where you thought, wow, that is really hard, and then at some point you thought, whoa, I can do that much simpler with this little trick or this tool or anything like that?
I think backgrounds was one of the big ones. I went over that in the main presentation, how just like studying Bob Ross just kind of flipped a switch, kind of. And I started just, yeah, where's my pen? So backgrounds would be a big one. Another one was in 2013, there was, so little bit of a story time here. So in 2013, you had Book 2013 in 2013, funnily enough, it wasn't in a different year. They had a video contest, and I decided, why not? I'll make an animation for that. They had a few requirements for it. One of which being that it had to be 1080p. That was the first time I realized that was the resolution you were supposed to animate at. So that video, Paint the Town Safety Yellow, that's like the first time I animated at like a resolution that has been, used by, for like 15 years. But there was like a whole host of like little technical stuff that I realized at the same time as that just made my animations start looking a lot better. Like before that, I used the brush tool for my lines, and it was kind of awkward and janky and needed a lot of fixing. And then I started using just flash lines, and that was yeah. I mean, we're getting into weird technical stuff that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you don't use Flash, but yeah, that was a big revelation. Just kind of being forced by requirements to do things a certain way, and then realizing there's a reason they're done that way. So that was my rambling answer to that question. Also, does anyone have any suggestions for what I should be doodling here?
Hi.
Hello.
I'm actually an animator myself as well.
Ooh, okay.
I have a question, and I just wanted to ask, would I be able to show you some of my work and just have you comment on it?
Oh, yeah, like come up to me after the thing,
sure.
and I'll happily take a look at stuff.
And my question is, I'm mainly a frame-by-frame artist. I use TV Paint.
I have used TV Paint before. It's hard.
Yeah, no, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but I've made some pretty good stuff with it. I just want to ask, how necessary do you feel it is to use symbols and tweens and whatnot? Like, do you think it's plausible to survive and only strictly doing frame by frame?
How long is a piece of string? I mean, I'm mostly of the opinion that it doesn't matter what tools you're using, it's how well you know your tools, which, you know, I suppose it's I mean, there's a bit of like, it depends on what you're trying to do. Like if you're trying to, you know, take out screws with a hammer, you know, you're not going to have a good time. Similarly, I mean, we know what happens when people have tried to use frame-by-frame animation for kind of fast turnaround TV animation, and that's how you get Scooby-Doo and the Flintstones.
Yeah, I know it makes it a lot easier to speed things along, because I've had issues where I've had frames that really should have gone by pretty quickly, but because you got to go in there and do every single frame, it just takes twice as long.
I know this pain.
Thank you.
But yeah, if what you want to do is like take whatever animation it is that you're doing and make it the best it can be, no matter how long it takes, frame by frame is the tool for that. If you want to do things extremely quickly, that's when you have to learn to cheat.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. We got one up here. He's going to have his hand up for a while. I was supposed to be drawing while I was doing this.
Have you ever tried hand animating, and do you think it still has a place today?
What, like using
pencils, you know, and paper and all that?
Tell you what, there's a movie that came out I think it was last year, called Loving Vincent. That was painted. It was painted traditionally in an impressionist style. It's a very unique look for a film. So yeah, traditional tools do have a place. There's kind of this constant fight in the arts in general between, you know, creativity and money, which is that animation is time-consuming and expensive, and if there's expensive in, you know, man-hours basically, and if there's one thing that a person in a suit who works in accounts does not like, it's time-consuming and expensive. So it's rare to find the opportunity to like actually use those tools, but as far as raw like creative achievement goes, there's definitely like a place for it still. I would highly recommend checking out Loving Vincent. I haven't actually seen the film myself. I just know it was nominated for an Oscar. So it was probably good. But it's definitely a very unique look and just a unique use of traditional tools in the modern world. We're not gonna do 240 frames today. That's I'm fast. I'm not that fast. So who's got a question?
Thank you.
Hello. Oh, yeah. The guy there has had his hand up for a while. Oh. Okay.
You mentioned that you're a professional artist. What separates a professional artist and a hobby artist? Is it that you are doing it full-time and not as just a hobby? Do you have future plans in animating other than just animating pony animations? So are you working in the animation industry?
Yeah, like the thing I mentioned at the start was the 2 studios where I've worked. Like right now, I am here because I booked time off from a company who employs me to animate a TV show.
Yes, and but more of my question is, because I phrased it not too well, when does an animator become a professional animator?
Oh, okay. I guess you become a You become a professional when you make enough money that you have to pay taxes, and yeah, that's the main thing. And I suppose B, you don't have to sort those taxes out yourself because you're being paid by someone else. I mean that kind of cuts a line between people who work for studios and freelancers. And freelancing is definitely like a professional thing, but it's a case of being able to live off your art. I'm sure there's like Patreon animators who are, you know, they make enough to live on, like Harry Partridge. kind of thing. Like he would basically be a professional animator. Hello.
Right. Hey there. First off, I wanted to thank you for this amazing panel. I really liked it.
Oh, thanks.
And secondly, I wanted to ask, when you were opening Sketchbook, I happened to see the program GIMP. As someone who uses GIMP as well, I wanted to ask, is GIMP helpful in animating or?
I don't know. The only reason GIMP is there is because for a while I was desperately trying to find out what software I could use on a surface. It turns out GIMP is fine. I just don't like GIMP, so I can't help you, sorry.
All right.
Yeah.
I use GIMP, and I can tell you it's not good.
Yeah.
Hi, CaptainHoers.
Hello.
You may remember that I saw you before when you did your Spitfire Days Off panel. And that was in Buck 2016?
Buck 2016 was when I was talking about the When Can I See You Again, or When Can We Do This Again?
Oh, yeah,
animation.
that's right.
Spitfire's Day Off was at GBBC.
Yeah.
Hands up if you know what GBBC is.
Yeah, great.
Exactly.
British, great, yeah. You said before that on the bar scene that you showed us, it was like the Gorillaz kind of style. Were you inspired by the Gorillaz?
I mean, subliminally maybe. I mean, I had a brief phase of being into Gorillaz in like 2005, 6, whenever they had like Feel Good Inc., that kind of thing. Yeah. It wasn't really a huge influence on me. It's really weird trying to pin down what my influences are because I only really like notice stuff afterwards. Like I could say that I was influenced by Genndy Tartakovsky. Like there's a very similar kind of lineless style on things like Samurai Jack. I hadn't seen Samurai Jack until like way after I'd started animating and found this style. So probably not, unfortunately.
Oh, that's all right. Sorry about the question.
Yeah, it's fine. I get to talk about influences and name drop Genndy Tartakovsky. Watch Samurai Jack.
Well, hello.
Hello.
Well, what kind of how to say animator on YouTube do you are your favorite? If you have a video, for example.
So my favorite like YouTube animator.
Yes.
Got to think about that.
Not the favorite, Miss 2, 3.
Yeah, like a few. I mean, I can't help but I can't help but mention Vivian Medrano, who did Die Young, that music video, and is currently working on Has Been Hotel, 18+. If you are under 18, do not go look for that. There's actually a few co-workers of mine who were working on the trailer, which is kind of cool. Harry Partridge would be another one. I'm actually not subscribed to a whole lot of pony animators. I'm sorry, I'm terrible. I keep up with them, but I don't subscribe. Most of what I watch on YouTube is like non-fiction video essays.
For example, they have an animation for all the button match video. I don't know, is this kind of a video you like?
It's kind of strange what catches my attention. Like Jan Animations is like I can appreciate the work in it. It's not something I go looking for. I tend to go looking for things that have like a very unique. There's one. There's a guy who is basically doing like a Star Fox animated Pardon me. I haven't finished this. There's a guy who's doing like an animated series of Star Fox, and he's basically like animating and voicing it by himself, and it's like frame by frame. The animation is a little shonky in a kind of appealing 90s way. It's really interesting. I think it's called A Fox in Space. I would highly recommend that. There's a few things. Harry Partridge, Fox in Space, Vivian Medrano. There's some things. I haven't like mentioned any pony animations. But I do think it's important when you're like getting creative influences to get them from as widely as possible. Like if you only learn how to draw from ponies, you're only gonna ever learn how to draw ponies. So yeah, that's yeah. I hope that was helpful.
What makes you want to start animation?
Oh, I've been given a fan. This is incredible. Yeah, that's a show that we watch. How do you do, fellow kids? Did someone end up with the microphone for a question? Or? Oh, hello. Yes.
Yes. Hi. What makes you want to start the animation?
Oh, sorry. Say again.
What makes you want to start the animation?
Honest to God, I was bored.
Okay.
I was like the entire reason that I am in this situation is that in 2011. Sometime in November, it was like 3 a.m. and I decided I'm bored. I'm gonna make an Ask blog, and because I was a fan of Homestuck at the time, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make a few GIFs, and everything went downhill from there. This is why I at the ideas thing I said be bored, because you will find the devil makes work for idle hands, and it turns out the devil likes ponies. Yeah, basically.
In the sci-fi scene where the Pegasus went down the cliff and onto the bus, you showed it.
The one with like
where the camera moved down.
Oh yeah, the camera. With the one of the ones I was using for cheating.
Yeah.
Yes, that one.
How did you make the background so that it went down? The camera.
Okay, so Flash doesn't have camera controls. There's a lot of other animation software that has like a virtual camera which you can move and you can have it like pan down. With Flash, you basically have to make the background on like a giant card and you move the background up. So you basically have to trick the software into thinking that something's moving. It's a very literal way of doing things like panning and stuff. I mean, I'm loving this fan. I mean, there's techniques you can use to. What the hell is this? I was doing that fairly deliberately. Why did I do that? There's techniques you can use to like create. Parallax is the name for it, where like certain parts of the background are moving faster than others, and that's basically how you give the illusion of a background moving. And yeah, sorry, you were going to say something?
So was it a picture that moved up, but looked like it changed the view?
Oh right. So
so you first the picture background is background which shows the straight, and then you see the button.
Oh, okay. I'll like illustrate what that background looked like. So the camera started like up here. You've got like the cliff here, and then you got like the mountains and the city, and then there's the road, and underneath the cliff, the road looks kind of like this.
And then the bus.
And then like the rocks, they just kind of move out of the way. They move down faster than the rest of the background, so they move out of the way of this, and then it ends with this, with the cliffs somewhere down here, and then the car just kind of appears out from the bottom of the screen.
Thanks.
A visual aid, it's great.
I like it.
So, I think that's how I did it. Again, with these kinds of animations, that I make them very quickly in something of a blur, so I don't remember all of how I do them. So, hello.
Hi. When we're talking about an animation like Spitfire's Great Day,
yeah.
How long does that take to render? I assume you render the whole thing at once when you're done. How much time does that take?
Yeah. So it'll vary a bit depending on some of the things that are in it. Spitfire's Day Off was a lot of very like flat colors, and it was what am I doing? Like Spitfire's Day Off wasn't particularly challenging to animate, or not to animate, to render, because it's all just like flat stuff. There's no effects going on. It would like render in 3-4 minutes. Something like sunlight, which has glowy lights throughout, it would still be on the order of like 8, 9, 10 minutes. Flash it renders things fairly quickly. I've gone and started this answer without knowing the whole thing. So exporting videos from Flash directly kind of sucks. What you have to do is go through a utility called Swivel, which turns a SWF, which is what I did the presentation in, into a video, or you render it as a PNG sequence and stick it into a video editor like Premiere. But even then, you're still looking at maximum 15 minutes. It's not like rendering 3D animation, which can take hours. So 2D is generally quite quick. At work, we do a fairly similar thing where it's just like you render the scene and then you wait 5 minutes for it to get done. Very occasionally, there'll be a scene with a camera move or one of the weird rigs for the stupid characters that takes an hour. Camera moves will slow down a video render in particular because it has to redraw every single frame instead of just reusing stuff. I don't know how renderers work that technically. I'm only a 2D animator. So yeah, that was another rambly answer.
Yeah, it was a good answer. I'm very jealous of those rendering times. I've used 3D rendering myself.
Okay. I have 3 minutes. Okay, I've got 3 minutes to... Now I remember what I was doing with that damn thing. Oop. I was on frame 3. Undo. So, who had another question? Ooh. Yes, there we go. Oh, okay, question. Any more questions? What the heck am I doing? Well, I just remembered that what I was drawing was the fan. So, there's the tie that I draw my little goat OC with, and then it's blowing this way, and then there's the thing.
So hi, last question for you, I guess.
Okay.
So
Ow! Ow! I'm sorry. I That's why I said if you want the death machine. Yeah. Okay. Now I realize why it's called a death machine. It stopped.
Probably just a USB thing popped out of the bottom.
Oh no.
Don't worry.
Okay.
Got broken.
It was good while it lasted.
So about the question, you talked a little bit about your professional life and also your private life, I guess, with your hobby.
Yeah.
How do you not get burned out?
Sheer bloody mindedness. Honestly, this is the upside of a couple of personal flaws of mine, where I'm too stubborn to know when I'm beaten and too arrogant to believe that it's not worth my time. And this means I just kind of keep going even though I'm having a bad time. And sorry? That helps. I mean, I'm definitely not bored now. I have a lot of drawing to do. But as far as because maintaining work-life balance is also a thing, and that's a thing that I'm not that great at, and a lot of self-employed people are also not great at. There's that saying, if you do what you love, then you'll never work a day in your life, and that is a lie. You will work constantly and have no idea when to stop.
Thank you very much.
Okay. There we go. Red shirt over here. Oh, no, that's not the one. No!
I have the last question, I think. Have you ever animate in the show style?
I have not done that. There is no delete key on this. I went to demo Autodesk Sketchbook and I forgot how to animate an Autodesk Sketchbook. It's easy, I swear. I have not animated in the show style. I kind of never even tried to. I went hard on just doing my own style. I feel like if trying to emulate another style it's something that you end up having to do it in certain situations, particularly in professional life. But as far as your own learning, it's good to try it, but not get married to it. So I feel like people who, put all their energy into only ever doing show style animation are kind of doing themselves a disservice. And you try to draw everything is a thing that you should do. I mean, like I could do with trying to do show style, but that's because most of what I do isn't. So yeah. At this point, this isn't going to be an animation. This is going to be. So are we running out of time? Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to quickly do this thing. We're going to have at least 2 frames. It's going to be 8 frames long. Yeah. This is going to be so strange out of context that people like went to an animation panel and this is what we came out with. I'm a professional. But yeah, so oh my God, people are taking pictures. But yeah, it's like this is my big animation for 2020. I'm dying. I forgot to do the sweat drops flying off. So thanks for coming. If you have any more questions, come talk to me. I'm going around with this giant Irish flag. Well, it's tied to my bag. I can't lift it over my head. But I'm not hard to find. I have the big Irish flag. I'm blasting music. Thanks for coming. Enjoy the rest of the con. Bye.